Hey, welcome to the Liverpool Community Podcast. I'm your host, Chase Johnson Lynch, here on Liverpool Online. And basically, we are talking to people from the community that I like to hear more about, and I feel you like to hear more about. And this is an old friend of mine. Oh, man, we go way back in the day, to the foggy days where I can't even remember what I was doing back then. But anyway, I'm joined here by, I'm going to say social activist. I'm going to say minister. I'm going to say choirmaster, but also I'm going to say music video performer, Liam Moore. How you doing, Liam?
Hey, good, Chase. You good?
Yeah, man, I'm good, Liam, man. I mean, I remember seeing you like last year when you came into our studios on our popular show, We Are Family, and everything like that. And it was like that's where we reacquainted ourselves because we have mutual friends, don't we?
Yeah.
And everything. But like it also goes back in time to like where obviously Liverpool is a small place, so people come across each other. But I mean, I like a lot of the we have the same ethos, I believe, and what you're trying to do. So we're gonna go through your history a little bit, but I don't want to like hit the videos just yet because what I was thrown by was as a minister, right, who has not just worked here but in the States. It's like what causes a person to choose that life, to become a minister. And for you, it was a question of faith. And I was thinking, oh, this is pretty interesting because, one, you're being open about it. But, I mean, a question of faith for most people is like we hit that crossroads, and like, am I going to go here or am I going to go there? I mean, we could use the word, but, I believe you were like 29. Tell us a little bit about this moment in your life. Because it changed it for everything for you.
So the mad thing about it, I wasn't in my domestic life. It was just I was to the wall and just in bits. My professional life was going up and up and up. I was on Stars in Their Eyes as Phil Collins. I used to go all around the world doing Phil Collins, and then I sung in front of Phil Collins on the 15th of December 1997, and it was all cool. I was earning good money and being on telly, getting loads of recognition, getting loads of plaudits, and people think that that's everything's good and everything's cool. But in my domestic life, it was just in bits because I'd lost my mum a few years previously. I'd had a real volatile relationship with my girlfriend, and also I was on drugs. I was on coke, and so coke and drugs and the cosmetic drugs and whatever. It's all good, well and good, and that when you're in the crowd and you're on a drink and all that. But when you go home and you're on your own and you're thinking all these things and no one's there to like kind of help you along the way, and that you can become a very depressive drug. And so I was in a mess. But I remember I just sung in front of Phil, and it was at Earl's Court, and it was his end of tour party, and it was the Dancing to the Light tour. So I sung in front of him, and it was a bit like weird and surreal. But I've met Phil a few times.
What song was it?
Well, I'd done like a set. I'd done like 25 minutes.
Okay.
And he was just looking at me and just kind of staring. And afterwards, when I was speaking to him, I said, "Listen, I hope you don't think I'm, taking, advantage of you in any way." And he went, "No." He said, "Listen," he said, "it was spooky, frightening and very flattering." He said, "You even do things that I didn't even know I did." And then we started getting a rapport going and a little bit of a conversation going because he loved the Beatles, loves Liverpool. And we were just talking about things like that. But then he started talking to me about, the tricks of the trade, so to speak, and he'd give me little nuggets of wisdom and whatever and that like type of thing. So he'd get off and then he'd come back and then he'd get off and come back. And then he'd come up to me and he went, "Getting off now, Liam." And I was like, listen, I said, I'm so like kind of honoured and privileged and all that. He said, listen, he said, don't worry. He said, what are you doing tomorrow? And I said to him, I said, well, to be honest with you, I've been down the south for the last 10 days. I said, and, you know, I've hit like kind of a wall and whatever. I said, I'm knackered, I'm tired. I've just split up with me girl. I'm moving into my house tomorrow and, you know, I just want to go home. And I started crying in front of him. And he got me and he hugged me and he kissed me on the cheek. I always remember that. And he said, listen, don't worry about it. And then I found out later on and that he was going to get me up like on his last like kind of night and to do like a song with him. But you know what, sliding doors and, you know, it wasn't supposed to be. But what happened was, went that kind of, I'd been up all night with the bands and whatever, you know, drinking and, you know, having stories and whatever and that. And then basically I was going home the next day and that was the, you know, that was the real kind of in your face of, is this what I'm going to be? A Jack Phil Collins for the rest of my life. I've fulfilled my ambition. I've been on telly. I've done
kind of like went
and
to
I'm
the
not
highest. You guys went to the highest you could go.
Yeah.
And by like not just meeting the man, but being there with him and stuff.
Yeah.
And everything. So what did that tell you about you?
It told me about me that
there
was a lot of emptiness and a lot of void in my life. And because the two things I wanted, Chase, I couldn't have. No, I wanted my mum. And that, like, I wanted to hug my mum and I wanted, you know, be with my mum and I wanted my girlfriends, and the two things were not possible at that time. And that so I remember moving into the house and I remember getting on my knees and I just cried out to God and I just said, if you're real, please just reveal yourself. And I remember getting over Christmas, I'd bought 200 quid's worth of coke, and I'm talking about, this wasn't Daffy'd, you know, this wasn't chopped up or by carbs or whatever. This was from the real deal and that, like, and so, you know, it was pure like white, you know. And so even that, I never even touched it, and I remember throwing it down the toilet.
Wow.
And it was wow, you know. So and then over the Christmas and that, like, I was just feeling depressed and really in a bad place. And I remember on the 8th of January 98, I was going to a gig in Bicester, and I was on the M40, and basically I was hearing all these voices going, go on, Liam, go on, and very subtle going, go on, it'll be over in a minute, go on, you'll be with your mum and all that, like. And then all of a sudden, out the blue, Chase, I just can't like explain to you, I had a road to Damascus experience.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? And just basically just a bump, Liam, call your friends and ask them about me. And it wasn't a hallelujah, hallelujah. It was just basically speaking in them terms, phone your friends and ask them about me. And I phoned my mate Andy, and he was a church goer. He would call himself a Christian. And basically he told me about Jesus. Now, I was a Catholic, and I was like, you know, all the, you know, thee, thou and this and you know, Hail Marys and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And they say, well, you know, what have I got to do and all that, like. And he said, just pray to God. He said, just, if you know, if you're sorry and that, like, just pull in the lay by. And I knew I didn't want to die. You know what I mean? I knew I was 29 years of age, but I'd hit a wall, as you said, a crossroads, a watershed, you know, whatever it was, a road to Damascus. And it was real. It was real. I can't deny that. I can't deny that.
So this road that you hit, you know, this change, you know, for you, it led you to America. Is this right? Because you said you started to do some work in prison.
Started doing the churches. And, you know, and the mad thing about it is that they wanted me to do the Phil Collins in the churches, you know what I mean? Yeah, so it was like kind of, Jesus, he knows me, man. He did know me. And so basically I was doing shows whereas I was sharing my story, and I was doing Phil Collins as well. I'd written a couple of my own songs as well. And that's what I did. I started getting on the Christian circuit and going around the country and literally like doing that. And then all of a sudden I got an opportunity, an invite to go to Alabama, and I just went with it in my spirit. I just in like that unction, you know. I just thought this is right, and so I went over. I went over to Texas. A guy called John Owens, and he was a Jesus freak, man, from the 60s, you know what I mean? Got like kind of totally like kind of zapped in the 60s and that, and then, you know, he was doing the prisons, and that really like resonated with me, and that, and it was like, you know,
because they were lifers as well, weren't they?
so there was lifers. We went to East Ham in Texas, which was one of the worst in the Time magazine. When I went in 2005, 5 years previously, East Ham was the worst prison in the world. Even the gulags and the, you know, all that kind of thing. And I went to Livingston, which was death row. I've been to death row. And then I went to the lifers, which, as you know, the 3 strikes and out. As you know, Trace, it's not good, is it?
No,
you know what I mean? Because there's no parole, is there?
No, but what I'm curious is that doing that, it's got to be a big change for you. I mean, what was it that was part of your learning in that? I mean, meeting people that were at this stage in their lives.
I think what it was there was a lot of gun and gang stuff going on at the time within my manor, within Norris Green and Croxted and that. And there was young kids, and what was really resonating to me was the flowers on the lampposts and on the railings, and hearing all the time that, like, you know, in the echo, you know, just sensationalising it in a lot of ways, and honing in on the negativity of it, was like young kids were just getting shot for no reason whatsoever, and it was on my doorstep. And what it was like, I'm talking to these guys in death row and the lifers, especially the lifer kids, because these were only kids, and they were 30 years, some of them were 60, 90 years, 3 life sentences, no parole, you know what I mean? And they were like, kind of, you know, the your man, what was his name from the Crips? What was his name? Suki Williams. Suki Williams. Now he became, like, you know, like a man of faith and everything, you know, and you know, we got like nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, and next minute Arnold Schwarzenegger just pressed the button on him, and you know, after being on death row for like 10, 12 years or whatever and that. And so basically what it showed me is that there is, you know, there is a reforming, and there is a kind of restorative justice that can be done within the prisons and within facilities where people can change their lives around. And what they were saying to me and challenging me, because I was talking to them, and they were like, listen, man, don't even know what you're saying, man. You're singing like Phil Collins, man, and like, we just love you coming over, man. God bless you, man. And it was that kind of, you know, openness with me. And I was telling them, and they were like, get the kids on a charter plane, get them over here, and we'll show them what the gangster life is, right?
Yeah, because I mean, it's like Scared Straight, you know. So I mean, that was a popular thing at the time and everything. But with all of this work and the people you were working with, you know, they kind of like encourage you, as you said, to maybe, you know, you could do more by joining the ministry and being ordained. And you got ordained in America, didn't you?
I got pushed into, not pushed into it. What I mean is I got encouraged.
Supported.
Yeah, I got supported and encouraged to do that. And it was, you know, it was one of the most amazing, like, kinds of nights in my life, you know, and people praying over you and people speaking good, positive things over you. You know, I had nothing but great things in America. I thought I was going to live there, you know, and
you know, but did a lot of back and forth, didn't you?
My politics didn't kind of go with the kinds of faith in certain ways, because I was there when Obama was like kind of running and whatever. And so, you know, when you got like kinds of certain churches who have got a theology and have got like a real focus on, you know, Democrats being from hell and, you know, Obama being the Antichrist and that,
Well,
it's really
you
hard.
are
It's
in
just,
Midwest.
yeah, well, I was
If I understand
Midwest and the Bible Belt,
yeah,
and the Bible Belt as well,
yeah.
and that, like, so I can understood what, like, John Lennon meant when, like, about the Jesus thing and all that. It was like,
Yeah.
wow, but what I'm saying is lovely, lovely, lovely people, and that's why my heart breaks, Chase, over the likes of Trump being the biggest counterfeit and
All right.
fraud ever.
We don't usually go down to politics, bro,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I get you. So now, I mean, you doing this back and forth. You get to be ordained and stuff, but like, I think what's important is like you were talking about like young people and things happening, like kids being killed,
Yeah.
and on your own doorstep, the tragic incident of Reese Jones
Yeah.
happened. And everything, and like this kind of like stopped you from going back to America, because it's like maybe I should be doing something here where I live and stuff like that. If this is happening, can you tell me about that? How that hit you
I
so
think it's
hard?
another watershed moment. You know what I mean? I think we've all got watershed moments, haven't we? Times
course, yeah.
in our lives that like are like kinds of, wow, I could have gone that road and I went down that road, and I absolutely believe that the Lord was in it, whereas I ended up staying, because it was like I got prepared in America to get ready for here and that like kind of thing, because I used like that experience in the prisons and death row and with the lifers and that to go into the schools and also to go into the communities. The communities at that time, there was a lot of it was rough, and we had Matrix and whatever, like pulling you up, and it was like RoboCop. It was just mad, it was
You
just,
had the sus laws
crazy.
and everything as well.
Yeah, so people walking around with guns and whatever. It was like, it was mad, and so I got really, really challenged over, there was a few things that had happened before Reese, but when that young kid on a suburban estate, which it could have been anywhere in England, anywhere in Europe, I think that's when it hit home. He was a white kid, he was from a middle class background, so to speak. He lived on a middle class estate, and if it could happen there, it could happen anywhere.
Yeah.
And that's when I really kind of thought, this is on my doorstep now. This is where I was literally quarter of a mile away. And that it was like, this is on my doorstep, and I have got to do something about it. And I kind of like went back to my roots, so to speak, of singing, choirs, engaging with kids. And I got expelled when I was 14 as well. So, God's got a bit of a sense of humour, because I went back into exactly probably the same kids that I was a few decades previously. And was all talking about love, affirmation, approval, acceptance. But then I said to them, would you like to be part of something that would bring an end to gun, knife and gang crime in Crocky and Norris Green, or alleviate it, you know what I mean? And stand up, and the response was amazing. I went to De La Salle, which was literally where obviously choirmaster went to, and then I ended up doing the primary schools, and what happens is very, very quickly is that it wasn't just about Reese Jones or like the gun, knife and gang crime, and it was about the families that were inadvertently linked or inadvertently connected to the death of Reese Jones. So you had a full spectrum, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's what I really kind of
It's like the jails, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's what I find.
as-
That's what I find interesting about it, because like choosing, you worked with like about like 12 different schools and stuff, and what I find is like you put all of those voices together. Do you know what I mean? Into like these like choirs. Because like one of the groups I think you said was Merseyside Unites and stuff, but you put together a song called "You're the Voice."
Yeah.
And it was like giving a voice to young people at this time of pain and rage,
Yeah.
but also a time of love and peace.
Yeah.
Because it's a choir type of song and everything. And I think that what's amazing about that is like because you were you came together like this event that's where I guess we met
Where we met,
initially,
wasn't
because I was working with a good friend of yours,
Beverly.
Beverly Keenan, on Perfect Day,
Yeah.
which she is a song that she worked on for Reese Jones. So like in that aspect, it's just that like this was a time of life where people are like coming together, you know, through tragedy, but then bringing about love and peace from it all. And then, you know, and you being a part of that was like really amazing. It sounds to me like, you know, to have that experience. I mean, obviously also too is that, you know, you had another interesting experience too, as well as I went through your life cycle. You wanted to experience homelessness right from its core, you know, and like I believe you said you worked on a film where you got to be homeless for 36 hours. Now, me, I couldn't. I remember. I mean, to be honest, like for myself, I was homeless for maybe like about 5 hours when I was living in Jersey. So it's not a good thing because it's that like rollover time for me.
Yeah.
And when you say 36 hours, that's more than a day. You know what I mean? But can you tell me a little bit about that experience for you to experience that homelessness? Because I know that's one of your big things is that you want to do things about poverty, like your the songs that you create, you know, want to give to child poverty. But can you tell me about that experience for you? 36 hours of being homeless.
Yeah, it was basically because we'd been doing the stuff with The Voice and the gun and gang stuff and that. And what was apparent over them few years and all that was the absolute poverty within our communities, and that's like through, you know, Thatcherism, the generations not working, no regeneration, no employment in those type of areas, and that, and then, you know, we were wondering, I was like, kind of, well, why are you fighting from Norris Green and Crocky when if you would have come together and fight the real enemy and what it's all about or whatever. And I think that's what happened over the period of time, what we did, The Voice and that, is that, and what I was saying is that because people were going into town and people were you know, you seeing that the streets were strewn with homeless people, and you know what it's like in the States.
Oh,
you know,
please, man.
it's just,
I mean, it's nowhere near like here.
yeah, no, that's what
It's
I'm saying.
massive.
No, it is, and so, you know, I kind of, you know, seeing it prophetically of when I was in America, like coming over here, I thought it's happening. It's going to happen here. There's no danger about it that it's going to happen here. And what I didn't want people from our community to walk into town to go and beg or whatever and all that like type of thing. So it was that kind of thing really. Is that I wanted to make a statement. Is that, you know, these people could be in housing, you know, rented housing. You know, I was talking to a guy, you know, when we used to do the outreach with Gladstone's on a Friday night, there was this lad, and it's only like 20 odd years ago now, 21 years, 22 years ago. And we used to go out and we used to give teas and coffees out to the clublands and whatever and that. And there was this guy, and he was homeless. And you're talking to him and all that, like, and it was like, you know, what's your story? And all that, like, so, and he'd go, no, I'll tell you one day and that. So I started building up every week. I'd see him, started building up a bit of a, you know, friendship and relationship with him, talking to him and whatever. And I said, you know, what's your story and all that? Because for me, a lot of people were like wanting the clublands and all the people on the ale and all that. Mine was more towards the homeless and whatever, even back then. And I've done Another Day in Paradise on Stars in the Eyes, so I've always had this relative, like, kind of towards homelessness. And so what happened was this guy started, like, he said, well, you know what, I'll tell you. He said, I used to be a paramedic. And I went, oh, wow. And I said, well, what happened and all that? He said, I was getting ready for work and all that. He says, and I got a blow through. He says, and it was a you know, a young girl had been knocked down and that, and I was the nearest, so I got the blow through, and it was his daughter. It was his daughter who died, and he went and he seen, his daughter and all that like kind of thing, and it was like I was just in bits, and then he told me then, he lost the plot and all that like kind of thing. He lost his job. There was no kinds of welfare or people looking after him or whatever. I don't know like what happens and all that like. But back in the day, there didn't seem to be that pastoral care or that welfare to look after him. And then his wife left him. He ended up having a weed. Next minute he was on the gear. Lost his house and whatever, and then he's on the streets. So I always remember that in my head and all that like that. I can't judge these people, I can't judge these people in whatsoever. And then and so I wanted to like kind of not grandstand or whatever. I just wanted to know what it was like, and it was the end of April, and it was absolutely Baltic. It was Baltic, and I never went with any money. People filming me, the lads and all that, like, but never had no money and whatever and all that. And I went to the stations or the places where they go. And then I ended up, and a mate of mine, Kevin, he stayed with me. And that, like, and I ended up under Mount Pleasant, where they all used to, like, kind of get their heads down. And there was Eastern Europeans, there was ex-vets there, army vets, there was young kids there. There was all like like everything, different types of people from all walks of life, and I remember that I had this silver piece of like them, where you go camping and all that like kind of thing, these silver foil, and I was absolutely really cold and that like kind of thing, and it absolutely messed me up. And what happened was there was a girl who was next to me, and she had a brush on top of the ledge, and she brushed away all the ciggy stumps and the excrements and whatever, and it stunk of urine, just stenched of urine. But it showed me that she had a bit of pride where she was kipping and all that, what I mean?
Well, I mean, it's like kind of like, unfortunately, like when you see the homeless out there and everything, and what you could at least say is like, what's interesting here in Liverpool anyway, as I've seen, is that businesses allow them to stay within the doorways of businesses or, like houses.
2017, they didn't.
No, I can imagine. It's only been recently.
It's been a mindset change.
Yeah, it's only recently that you can see that. And at least so they got that like kind of like little cupboard kind of scenario. But also another thing I was noticing is that several homeless people have books.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like, when libraries are dead, It's like, who's reading nowadays? And it's homeless people. It's like, I gotta spend something, do something during the day or whatever it is. But I just thought that's like, I think what you were trying to say about that woman is that you still need some sense of humanity, unless you're like really like in some kind of drug feud haze about homelessness. But then it's trying to show that people are people. And like when they could be supported or whatever and all that kind of stuff, and like what you're trying to do for poverty, child poverty, and poverty in itself, I just think is important. Let's like look at like the music, because like obviously music is near and dear, closest to you, and everything. And it seems like 5 years ago, I think you started on a song, Something in the Air. Yeah. And then you eventually had a video made of this song, and you seem to be pretty proud that you got the Vine Street horns.
Got Phil's horns on it, man.
In there, Harry Kim and all that kind of stuff. But I've actually seen this video, and we might show a piece of it on this show and everything. And how did it feel to make that video for you? Because I see that you're working with young people. You're trying to say something. Tell us what you're trying to say.
So basically, it was last year at the last summer, and it was lockdown, And I've always wanted to do a video with the song, and I always wanted to bring the song out. And I felt as though the Lord was saying to me, you know, these 2 songs and that, Liam, I want you to give to the city. And that, and so I wanted to bring it out earlier. There was a couple of years previously whereas I should have brought it out, but I didn't. But you talk about watershed moments again, and that, you know, I had a tough time. I went through a really tough time, and that in 2018, I was going to be a city councillor, local Labour councillor, and I ended up, you know, getting involved in some crossfire with regards of where people just ended up having a hate campaign against me, a vicious hate campaign, so much so that, you know, I ended up in the Echo and the Sun and the Telegraph and all those right-wing rags, and they done a hatchet job on me. And really I was going through a tough time at that time. I was looking after my dad. I'd been ripped off by a business partner, so it wasn't a good time for my life, you know, in 2018. And then I was going through this moment of, not of my faith, but is it better to be here and not be here? Do you know what I mean? And I remember going down the Mersey every day, struggling with my mental health, struggling. You know, I had this cloud over me constantly, and anger and bitterness and wanting to kill people and whatever. And I thought, this is just not me. You know, this is me, but it is me now. This is what I've become. And because I've been dragged into something, and they've used me as this, like, kind of lamb to a slaughter, slow to speak, in order to get their agenda across. And anyway, what happened was I overcome that. You know, I had my dad alongside me. You know, my dad was my rock at that time, even though I was looking after him.
Your dad's in the video as well, isn't he?
That's what I'm saying. He's in it, and he's so. And then basically, I had to go through that and that, like, and then COVID.
Yeah.
And all that.
You know, let me say something about that, because, like, I mean, I wasn't trying really to step over that period, but it's, again, like, just maybe as an outside voice, it's another question of faith for you.
Yeah.
You know, you've been here before, you know, and it's kind of like the voice being able to say to you that you've been here before, Liam, and you survived and you persevered. Not only that, but you've also been able to do for others as you hope they would do for you. And in that aspect is that where you're getting all this negative press and this negative publicity and everything else like that, you know, what's terrible about the media is that, well, once it's printed, it's done. You know, it's on the internet, it's there forever. But, you know, at least in that time where if everything feels like it's crushing on you, you know, a year later, because you can only see it when you look back upon it, isn't it? Is that you were cleared of these shenanigans, and possibly did the papers say anything about it?
No, I never got an apology.
You know what I mean? So for those, you know what I mean? It's just that kind of thing, you know. But you're a stronger person for still being here and for still walking your walk and continue to support others in your dreams. So, I mean, like, in that fashion is that, you know, I mean, I would like to applaud you on that. But, like, you know, for anybody who may have remembered that story or experienced that story, being cleared of, you know, negative, what do they call it? Slander when they say it or write it?
Vilifying and castigating.
No, well, you know what I mean. Slander and libel. Slander and libel.
And
whatever.
I could have gone down that road and
but you survived, you know. So in that aspect, you know, bringing us to, like, the present and now, it's like, you know, you said you're working on bringing out your EP that's something in the air to be a part of. But I'm getting there.
You're getting there, man.
Right, but you have a new video that you're working on called Where's the Love? Every time you say Where's the Love, it makes me think of the Black Eyed Peas.
But I wrote that 15, 17 years ago.
Are you trying to say you wrote it and Black Eyed Peas stole it from you?
No, it's a different type. It's a different song.
I know. But anyway, the whole point about it is that this song is going to be more about random acts of kindness. You're going to get your man Phil Perez again to, work on the video.
Yeah.
And you're hoping to, get this done by July this year.
Yeah.
Which is next month. But all the proceeds from this particular track will go to child poverty.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about Where's the Love and the Random Acts of Kindness.
So can I go back a little bit just to with something that's in the air, because it's really important, because COVID was a life changer for me. Do you know what I mean? I got COVID and I nearly died of COVID. I couldn't walk for 4 months and it took me a year to get over it and whatever. When you go through something like that and you're taking your last breath, knowing people who've died of COVID as well, it kind of like wakes you up and go, what's the point of being bitter? What's the point of being like hateful? And what's the point of giving them the space in your head of like going over and over, instead of being thankful for this day, thankful of what's happening this day, and thankful that you've got air to breathe in that way. So Something Is in the Air was this kind of culmination of all this stuff and whatever, and it was like, we're not going to let the haters and the mockers and the vilifiers and the castigators win.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get revenge. I don't want revenge. What I want the electricity, and I want the spirit of hope and love to resonate and reverberate, and to go around this city, because our city is special, you know, and that, John Lennon wrote, all you need is love, you know what I mean? And so, the thing is that love overcomes hate. It says with Martin Luther King, darkness can, push out darkness, only light can. Hate can't push out hate, only love can. And there is a mindset change and that kind of thing, and it came to that point last year, and that kind of thing where it's I'd buried it in a way of I'm not going to let the haters win, and I'm going to continue doing what I'm called to do. Do you know what I mean? This is my vocation, but this is my calling, and these songs need to go out, and we need to get it out there as a feel-good factor, because so many people have been kind of affected by COVID and the last 2.5 years, and that, mental health, social isolation, all them kind of stuff, suffering from, not going to the mum's funeral or dad's funeral. It's like coming out of something, like an exodus, Chase, coming out of something, and there's the promised land. That's what that song's about. And the real, kind of, relevance to it is my dad paid for the video, and he passed away at Christmas, my dad, and that he was like me, he believed in kinds of equality and fairness. He was a convener for Fords for 20 years, and he was a doer. He always did for people and gave to people, and I kind of take after him. And so there's Something Is in the Air is in memory of him, with the proceeds going to child poverty. And then the song, this, as I said to you before, it's like this aura, I'm going round like this, Harry's in the Harry Kim, Phil Collins' trumpeter, and Divine Street Horns brass section. He's in the video in LA, and he's playing the trumpet in LA, and it's this kind of, he's playing this note or whatever, and it's going across the globe and across the Atlantic, and next minute I'm on the Mersey and I'm getting it, next minute I get it, and then I go into the city and I've got this aura and all that, and it kind of, it's going to another level of consciousness, isn't it? Of like, you know, like unforgiveness and resentfulness and bitterness. It's like, no, you're not going to let them win. I'm not going to let them win. I'm not interested in revenge or whatever, karma, whatever and all that. I hope, and I've had people come up to me going, I'm sorry, Liam. I'm sorry for what happened to you. I'm sorry that you were part of that campaign and I feel ashamed. Please forgive me. Now, if that brings people to that place or whatever, and if it brings a better type of politics and a better type of integrity and honesty and transparency into our city, and that, because I think there's a lot of people like that now, Chase, who was saying, and obviously you got the Hillsborough thing and whatever, maybe the pioneers obviously with truth and that, but people are saying we don't want to be bloused no more. We don't want to be kidded no more. We don't want to be Adolf no more. You know, Boris Johnson and whatever. We don't want to be. We want, and I believe this is where, with the community thing and the community element, we need to just look after our own. We need to start getting back being Scousers, like from the north, the south, the east and the west, whether I come from Norris Green or Crocky, or if I go down the Dingle or Toxteth or whatever, and that. Still great, brilliant, amazing people, community activists who will kind of go out there and do the business, do you know what I mean? And that's what we're renowned for. And we put noses out of joints, and but you know what, mate? You've got a love in our hearts. If you cut us open, mate, there is a love in our hearts that we are loyal, that we are honest, that we are true, that we are given, and that we are welcoming, do you know what I mean, to those.
Well, you know, I mean, Liam, I mean, you know, I hear you, bro. I hear you, man. And our finality here is that, you know, the man who was in charge of setting up choirs, you know, as you keep talking about the pandemic, you had a Zoom choir. And but now that we're coming out of this pandemic period, you know, that Zoom choir is now turned into not one but two choirs, the Norris Green Community Choir and the Crossfield Community Choir. So if anybody wanted to become a part of that, how could they do that?
Well, you can get me on Facebook. You can go on to Norris Green Community Choir on Facebook, on the Facebook page. You know, if it, as I said, message me in any way, and that, like, you know, we've got some amazing people who have like joined, and it's all walks of life. It's from like 26 to 81. You know, one of the girls has got, like, you know, speech impairments and all that, like, you know, learning difficulties. We've got some who have been addictions, struggling with addictions, some who have like really struggled with the mental health through the pandemic and social isolation and that. And you know what, mate, we just come together every week, and it's not a community choir, it's a family. And you know, we're there for each other, we help each other, and that's where's the love, you know, that's something that's in the air, that's the electricity that is like kind of resonating, like, you know, and that's the change that I believe will come.
Nice one. Well, you know, it's been a pleasure talking to you there, Liam, man. And, you know, it's like, you know, what we need is more positivity out there. Or should I say more positivity in the air. You know what I mean? But either way you look at it, man, I just want to thank my guest here, Liam Muir, for coming in and talking to us. I'm Chase Johnson Lynch here on Liverpool Online. You've been listening to the Liverpool Community, I forgot what we're called. I was always saying Liverpool Community Choir. We listen to the Liverpool
Who knows,
Community.
man? Who knows? We got Liverpool.
Listen to the Liverpool Community Podcast. And for now, we out of here.